You know, like when BionicDance makes a video response of mine, a lot of her fans come over here, and I get a lot of sewage. I get a lot of raw, nasty ass people.
Oh, you're just asking for it now. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. And yes, the Idol Smasher is back. And let's have a look at what he seems to think is wrong with the atheist-theist debate.
I want to put a disclaimer up here, and it's bullshit that I should have to, but when I'm going to discuss the word atheist here, I'm not talking about all atheists, just the ones who are public, just the ones who come to us and say, because you're not an atheist, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for not being an atheist.
First of all, it's not bullshit that you need a disclaimer like that. If you're going to paint with too broad a brush, you're going to get people's hackles up, and you should expect static. It's that simple. Second, I don't know which atheists are calling you an idiot for not being one, but if they're calling you an idiot for believing things for bad reasons, more power to them.
You might believe in liberty, and you might not believe in burning churches down, but you are like those Klan members or skin members who go out in the woods and bitch about everybody else who's not like them.
Really? That's your comparison? The Ku Klux Klan? You do realize that most anti-theists are so because of the mistreatment of others at the hands of the religious, and not just because you're different.
The anti-theist is radical and should be treated with as much respect as the brown shirts. Okay?
Ooh, now we're on to Nazis. Hello, Godwin's Law.
You do not deserve respect. The anti-theist deserves a finite amount of respect. Finite. A very small...
I think he means minute or infinitesimal. All respect is finite.
I believe, yes, skins and Klan members do deserve some form of respect, but a very limited amount, in my book. Same with the anti-theists.
Well, golly gee whizzikers, we sure are evil, aren't we? Hold on. Let me put on my evil face. Here we go.
Trying to explain God to the atheist, the anti-theist, is like trying to explain love to a natural-born psychopath. It's like being colorblind. Something just doesn't connect up here.
Funny you should mention, because trying to explain logic and reason and the absolutely non-negotiable requirement of evidence for existence claims to a theist, something just doesn't connect up here.
They can read about love. They can watch people express this emotion, but they can't prove it in a lab under any circumstance.
Well, actually, if you hook someone up to an EEG...
And you can waste your breath all day trying to tell a psychopath about love, and they're not really going to get it until they experience it.
And you can waste your breath all day trying to explain to an atheist about God, but you're right. We won't believe without having experienced it for ourselves. But are you saying that God is just a feeling, like love? Are you saying that the claims that this God has affected the material world are bogus? Because if that's not your claim, if you think that this God has affected the physical world in tangible ways, then these experiences that'll get us to believe in him must come in empirical, objective, scientific form. Because if this experience of God is purely emotional, just a feeling, then what reason do we have to think that it's anything other than our own imagination?
I'm not calling anti-theists psychopaths. I'm saying that trying to explain God to an anti-theist and a good deal of the atheist is like it's the same thing. They've already made up in their mind that anything you give them is wrong.
You think you get to tell us what we've made up in our minds?
Back to paddling.
Have you considered the possibility that you might actually be wrong? Is it possible that your claims are rejected because your evidence is scanty at best? Have you considered these possibilities? Or is the only scenario you're willing to contemplate is that you're definitely right and everybody else is just rejecting what you have to say out of hand? Are you saying that nobody has considered your claim on its merits and still found it wanting? Because it sounds to me like you'd rather just cry that everybody's against you rather than entertain the notion that you might actually be on the wrong side.
So when they say where's the evidence for God, most atheists are asking for physical, testable evidence, something they grab a hold of.
Which is exactly what should happen. The only proper way to verify or debunk a claim of existence is through testable evidence. Anything else runs into the how do I know it's not just imagination problem.
And I, of course, direct them to Torah. Torah is a mapping of the human consciousness.
No, it's not. It's a book of fairy tales from thousands of years ago. If you want a map of the human consciousness, you go to a psychologist or a neurologist with an MRI.
And they're going to say, that's not evidence, that's just a book. You're an idiot.
Telling us what we're going to say again.
That's a peddling.
But you're kind of right. It is just a book. But you know what else is just a book? The Origin of Species. The difference between this and a holy text, however, is what the book says. The claims made by Darwin in his book can be tested in those tangible ways you were talking about earlier. There's something I can get hold of, something I can verify for myself. And when I can do the same thing with a religious text, that's when it stops being just a book.
It's like I could tell the same people, this is where it works. I have evidence of time travel. A wormhole opened up in the fabric of space-time, and through it came the manual from the future on how to build a transmat, a teleporter, like on Star Trek, where they beam you up and down, all that good stuff. And I have this book that's got all the science, all the schematics, and I say I've got evidence of future kind. I've got the evidence for advanced technology. And they'll say, oh, yeah, show it to me. And I'll say, it's right here in this book, how to build, and that's not evidence of anything. That's not advanced intelligence. There's nothing alien about that. It's just a book.
But again, what's in that book can be applied in the real world the same way that Origin of Species can, and the way religious texts can't. We can try to build that transporter, and if it works, that's some pretty good evidence that the book, at least, is making some true claims. It may not be evidence that it's from the future. Someone in the present could have some kick-ass head meats, and you're just claiming it's from the future. But at least we have something to go on. And again, when we can do the same thing with the magical claims made in your holy book, that's when we start to think that you at least might have a point.
You're so stupid, you idiot theist. Oh my God.
I mean, as if, like really.
That's the mentality of these people.
Telling other people what their mentality is.
That's a peddling.
Maybe that's how it seems to you, with so many people telling you that you're wrong, but you have no more right to make that claim than I have to say that you think everybody's out to get you, no matter how much it looks like it.
They're just going to say, it's a book, it's stupid. Anybody can write a book. That's fiction.
Yes, anybody can write a book, and that book could be fiction. You know how we tell the difference between fact and fiction? Testable evidence of the claims made in the book. That's how. And all claims should be treated as suspect until independently verified, which has never been done for a religious text. Ever. So when someone tells you that it's just a book, they're not mocking you. Well, maybe a little bit. But really, they're giving you the opportunity to show that what the book says matches something in the real world. Oh, Columbia, you silly kitty.
Like a lot of creationists, Christian creationists who are going to deny even the most simplistic evidence of evolution. They're going to deny it. They've already made it up in their mind.
Comparing us to creationists?
Oh, you better believe that's a peddling.
We're not denying evidence. You haven't presented any. Most theist arguments seem to amount to little more than, see, this holy book claims there is a God, so that's evidence that God is real. Except, of course, the claim is not evidence that the claim is true. That's absurd. Show us that what is written about in the holy text exists in the world outside the book.
So why bother beating your head against a brick wall with these people? Same thing with atheists, anti-theist atheists. And a good deal of atheists, too. They've already made it up their mind. Nothing can be evidence.
That's a peddling.
So obviously, we're not going to be able to take data because you can look at the data, and some people are going to see intelligent causation. Other people aren't. The data doesn't change.
And that's the whole point of scientific experimentation, independent verification, peer review, to filter out as much of our own biases and perspectives as possible to find the actual facts.
And we can't change their minds with the data.
Which data is this exactly that's supposed to change our minds? You can present a fact to somebody and say that it supports a claim you've made. But if they do their own experiment and discover that you're wrong, or that you're full of shit, why should it change their mind? There has never been data that, when objectively examined, has borne out magical claims. Not just religious claims, but all claims of the supernatural. So again, why should anybody's mind be changed? What data do you have that will show a God is real when scientifically examined?
You need to experience something called God consciousness.
And we're supposed to distinguish between that and imaginary wishful thinking. How, exactly?
God isn't out there in the physical world any more than the physical world being in the physical world.
Okay. Are you feeling well?
In heaven and earth, there is but God.
So, what, you're a pantheist now? Because that sounds remarkably like God is everywhere and everything all at once.
So, the God of the gaps thing is not going to work. Saying God did it all the time doesn't work. It's no different than when the atheist says evolution did it. Change over time happened because of change over time. That happened because it evolved there.
Which the fuck atheist says that? Either you don't listen too well when people explain evolution to you, or you're letting your obvious anger and frustration get the better of you.
The God of the gaps thing doesn't work. Ever. I don't care what side of the debate you're on. It's just dumb.
Are you actually trying to claim that evolution is a God of the gaps argument? Really?
The only way you're going to convince an atheist is to allow him to experience God. Because until they experience it, they're going to deny it. And we're not going to be able to change their minds. They've already made up their own mind.
That's a paddling.
So if I'm hearing you right, the only way I can be convinced of God is if I experience him. But the only way I can experience God is if I have some transcendental mind wobblies for which I have no way of distinguishing from my own imagination, nor any method of telling whether it's the same alleged God experience had by others. And you really don't see why I might not find that super convincing.
This is your God now. This is your God. That's what the anti-theist atheists do. They've already got it made up in their mind that they know what your God is.
That's a paddling.
So now it's just your God? You're not following a holy book or a religion anymore. This is your own personal God? Because if everybody's God is unique and nobody can use the Bible or the Quran, or in your case the Torah, as reference for making our arguments, if we cannot know what your God is from that, then we've got ourselves a bit of a problem here. Basically, you've stacked the deck in your favor. You're saying that you're the only one who is allowed to see certain evidence for the claim of God existence that you've made. And that makes me inclined to call shenanigans.
Shenanigans! Shenanigans! Shenanigans!
You make up this God guy and say, I don't believe in him.
Oh, you caught me. The God I don't believe in, I just made up. I didn't hear about him from somewhere else or anything. Goodness, no. Nobody else told me what that God is like. I have no points of reference other than my own imagination.
God consciousness. That's something that's accessible within the atheist, within the theist, within the non-theist, the deist. God consciousness is accessible to all human beings.
And for all I know, I've already achieved this state of consciousness, but didn't recognize it for what it is. Or maybe you thought it was a lot more than it actually was. Of those possibilities, how can you be sure which is the case? How do I distinguish between God consciousness and imagination, or wishful thinking? How do you know that neither of those is what you claim is this alleged God consciousness?
It's a level that goes just above where Buddha went. Buddha overcame the ego. Buddha overcame the solid physical reality.
Well, isn't that special?
That explains everything. Now show me it's real.
You can't expect, especially being an anti-theist atheist who trashes God, trashes Torah, and trashes people who believe in either, and expect God to be handed to you on a silver platter at your fucking command on YouTube. Who the hell are you people?
You don't actually think that going after religion and theists came first, do you? If religionoids had never made claims that failed the burden of proof, nor made nuisances of themselves towards others, you'd be getting a hell of a lot less flack from the rest of us. And frankly, yes, I do expect God to be, quote-unquote, handed to me on a silver platter. If the fucker exists and he's as powerful as people claim, why go to so much effort to hide himself all the time? Why should we have to do all this preparing? I don't have to prepare much more than putting on my shoes and grabbing my keys to go see a friend, or a parade, or a movie. If God's really that amazing, he could put in an appearance once in a while, you know. No warm-up stretches required.
God consciousness. Perhaps that's where our focus needs to be, O theists, deists, non-atheists. Maybe we need to get better in touch with our own God consciousness before we can begin to convince others of theirs.
And that makes a difference how exactly? I don't care how certain you are. If you're going to convince other people, you're going to have to be able to present some proper evidence. Anyway, until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.